The first race saw a bit of a mix-up in the GTPs, while the GTOs have returned to business as usual. But Suzuka has shown up on the schedule lots of times over the years, whereas Hockenheim this week seems to arrive once in a blue moon. And on top of it, they'll have to deal with the ultra-fast outer layout. Let's see where this all takes us as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Camel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Bobbert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Hockenheim used to share the German Grand Prix for many years, but since its disappearance from the calendar, it might not be quite as well known. Let's take a closer look with our track guide. Welcome to Hockenheim. Located just an hour away from the border of France, this is a German track whose nature has changed drastically over its history. Once an eye-watering blast through long straights in the forest, it has since been truncated to its current format. With 6 different layouts ranging between 2.5 and 4.5 kilometers containing 13 to 16 turns, depending on which you choose, it's got something for just about every level of racing. This means it would fit everything from club cars up to Formula One. And that's perhaps what it's most well known for. One of the regular hosts for the German Grand Prix, it has been the scene of multiple dramatic moments, some triumphant, some tragic. Its redesign in the early 2000s gave it a few well-placed overtaking spots. The Parabolica entrance can create a good sneak attack, but even if you don't get it done there, the huge run towards the tight and slow Spitz curve is the place most well known for overtakes. If neither of those work, on rare occasions, Mercedes Corner can see drivers manage to pass one another. While the straights certainly aren't as long as the old version, it still requires a good deal of top speed to be competitive. But driver beware. Throttle control can often make or break your lap on the latter half of the circuit. All in all, German race fans can be assured to find great action no matter your tastes in racing at this fantastic venue. This has proved a relatively popular track to use. It's pretty versatile, but this is not a layout that we see very often, Adam. This outer layout is going to keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah, definitely. The Hockenheim outer layout is a blisteringly fast 2.72 mile, 4.38 kilometer track that claims to have 12 turns, but it only really requires 7 for braking. The Nissan will still feel the most at home here, with the Nord Curve and Mobile 1 being medium-speed downforce corners. Their danger zones are going to be the 3 hairpins throughout, while the Audi's danger zones are everywhere that the Nissans want to be. The Audis will struggle through the aforementioned downforce corners, but they will thrive on the corner exits of the hairpins. And that's going to make multiclass here a very fascinating and potentially conflictory affair. With so few braking corners, the Nissans will be unwilling to give up any time on the straights, and the Audis are going to be unwilling to let off the gas on corner exit. And this is going to lead to a lot of potential comings together. Add to that a complex pit entry and almost guaranteed pit stops for both classes. And though it may be only the second race of the season, Joe, I foresee tensions being very high here toward the end.
Same here. I think it's going to be a bit of a frustrating one in some ways, but Valenteus took the win last time, so he is currently leading up at the top of things, but he is not here this time. So will we see him back again to try and keep this top spot later on in the season? Van Asant has been showing up a lot recently, so he could be a serious threat. Sai Andra does not appear to be racing this time, but as you can see, when he does show up, he tends to be quick. Del Olmo switching over to the GTPs has proven to be just as handy in the high downforce machines, getting himself a top 5 at the first ask. We'll see if he can back that up this time, beating out Hugh Haycox, who's known to be quick as well as a champion over in this series. Now let's take a look at the GTOs, because like I said, it's been a bit business as usual over there.
Well, business as usual with the exception of last season. The Flying Finns are back with Jukka Leskala leading Topi Kortaniemi for the win last week. Ian Brassfield, a newer driver, has come up to the fore and finished in 3rd position over Timothy Vaughn in 4th and Ian Haycox in 5th. All of those drivers, including Michael Jenke, Doug Cloud, are all here for this race. The first driver who is not in this split is Mickey Friesen. Hideki Koivisto also is not here, as well as Jamie Hamill-Smith, who has not made this split either. So realistically, it's the top 7 who are duking it out for points here today at Hockenheim.
Now, as for today's race, you heard it mentioned by Adam. It's a 60-minute race, so they have a pit stop that they'll need to do at least once during this race to take on fuel. Most of them probably going to be trying to take tires as well, since it's essentially free with the pit stop. They have open setups in this series, but with this being such a fast version of this track, you expect they're mostly going to want to get a lot more straight line speed. They don't have a spare car if they do wind up with some damage. There's plenty of runoff here. I expect most of the damage is going to be coming from hitting other cars, unfortunately. Drive-through penalty at 17 and disqualification at 25. Keep it within the track boundaries and try not to abuse that paved runoff too much here today. We're starting to get our first timed laps in, and it looks like Timothy Reed has come back to the GTPs. He was racing over in the GTOs last time out, and I guess he missed the downforce that he had before and is now back up on the top spot by the smallest of margins over Pepe Fuentes.
I mean, he didn't, he either finished 25th or didn't finish last week, so I believe that he just got some bad taste in his mouth and is jumping back into those GTPs. Going to put down some fast laps here at Hockenheim, but Jukka Leskala, as expected, to the fore in the GTO. Ian Brassfield, once again, putting on a great qualifying effort, currently in second, 0.3 down from Jukka.
You can see they completely skip through the Mercedes arena in this version and go straight on into the Mobil 1 curve, into the stadium section now. And we're on board with Laust Olsen in desperate need of some good finishes as of late. So let's see if he can at least put himself in a good spot here on his second lap. He sits 5th. I'm sure he'd like to be a little bit higher up than the 3rd row. So let's see what he's got.
Yeah, Laust Olsen putting on a decent show right now. Let's see what he puts down once again. Crosses the line. And, second position. Only 5/100ths off of Van der Sant, who takes the provisional pole, provisional pole position, as we still have a couple drivers left to finish their times.
Still need Custers and Mosquera to set a lap. Jason Clapper, we know he's not probably going to get a lap in because he likes to start from the back of the field. Second lap for Leskala goes quicker, and Topi Kortaniemi cannot match him. So Yuko still on the provisional pole. Timothy Vaughn gets close, but not close enough as he'll settle into 3rd.
Yeah, good job from Vaughn to jump Brassfield by only 2/100ths of a second, so a good lap from him. Doug Cloud struggling with the characteristic Audi understeer rather. We're gonna see him rolling. Look at that beautiful GSRC t-shirt. I wish mine still looked that good. I've rubbed it off, I've worn it so much, but he rolls through the S-bends and now into the penultimate corner and then the final corner, struggling to get the Audi nose pointed in the right direction here, using up all the tire he can on the exit here, goes to the outside of the track. It's not going to be an off track, it's fairly forgiving out there, crosses the line. How is Doug going to improve? He does improve up to 9th position.
Also, Jack David Spickett was on his second lap, but unfortunately spun, I think, out of the final corner and is done. So Marty Ollie, the next one to try and cross for a second time out of the south curve here. Let's see if he can go any faster than that 28.6. There's the timing line coming up, and it will be a 28.7. That's going to be a no, and he's among the last ones. In fact, I think he is the last one able to set a time, which means our grid is now set. Let's go through that starting order. Alexander Van der Sant has returned. Remember, he's second in the points coming into this race. Starting on the pole is going to do him no bad on that, as Laust Olsen will start from 2nd, and Timothy Reed returns to the GTPs to start from 3rd. Arturas Kundelis will be P4. Pepe Fuentes eventually got pushed down to 5th, as Daniel Gomez is 6th, and Aaron Humphrey starts from 7th. Javier Del Olmo, I mentioned he hopped over here to the GTPs and didn't qualify all that great, but he clearly has the chops in the race itself. We'll see if he can improve from the 8th position. Mosquera was 9th behind him, and then the top 10 is rounded out by Fabian Jungbluth. Jack David Spickett messed up the second lap, so he's only good enough for 11th, as Martin Krajcik will be 12th. Custers and Clappers did not set times and will start from the back of the prototypes.
And then it's the GTOs with Yuka Leskala on pole, Topi Kortanemi next to him. Then row 2 is going to be Ove Trangrade with Timothy Vaughn lined up behind Kortanemi. Ian Brassfield fell down to 5th position after not setting a good second qualifying lap, with Arimas Zelinskas lined up next to him on row 3. Row 4 goes to Josh Brain and Ian Haycox, with the top 10 rounded out by Doug Cloud and Michael Yankee. Then we've got Reed Miller joining us once again, Mr. Consistency down there in 11th position with Marty Ollie in 12th spot. Taras Vosberg lines up in 13th, and the last Audi driver is Daniel Repetto. That's 14 Audis for a total of 28 drivers in this split today.
And they're just about getting gridded up here. Now we have about 73 Fahrenheit track temperature, but the thing I'm looking at is the wind right now, about 12 to 13 miles an hour. Hopefully, if it stays steady, it shouldn't cause too many problems, but there's certainly a couple places where if it gusts on them, I have a feeling that could upset the Nissans a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, as you said, the wind is going to be a factor, and so is the air temp. It's very cool out there today, but that 13-mile-an-hour wind may not seem like much, but that's going to be affecting them for sure. It's out of the southeast, so that's going to be giving them a tailwind down the back straight. So that's going to be a fascinating thing for sure as they start pushing forward. So humidity is fairly low, so that won't be affecting them as far as track grip, but it's going to be very high tire wear today, Joe, especially with the wind gusting on them. So that's going to mean that they're going to have to manage their tire in this first stint a little bit more than they normally would, is my guess.
You can see from the pace car looking back at the field as they line up here today. Top split. So this is the best of the best racing against one another. It's been happening more frequently in this series where enough drivers have been signing up on the strength of field race that we broadcast that we are having to deal with a split. It didn't happen for quite some time here in the Camel series, except for very rare occasions. So are we starting to see a resurgence of popularity here in these classic IMSA race cars? Just about ready to go. Last time we visited this track, from what I can remember, this layout of this track, Adam, the slipstream, especially out of the hairpin, is monumental.
Yeah, the slipstream was definitely monumental, but so were the incidents. We saw a lot of incidents, especially coming out of the hairpin following the parabolica. Quite frankly, the Audis have so much more launch out of there. They get about a 10-mile-an-hour overspeed on the GTPs before the GTPs get their turbos spooled up and take off. And we saw a lot of GTOs getting into the back of GTPs. We saw a lot of GTPs lunging into that corner and absolutely stabbing the GTOs as well. So the parabolica and the corner that follows it have always been an issue when it comes to multiclass, and I expect we're going to see more frustration today.
Well, we'll find out pretty soon because they are on the pace lap now, the partial warm-up lap. There's one of our onboard cameras, Laust Olsen. Got a couple today, himself, Cam Porter, Doug Cloud, and Bjorn Ackerman going to give us a view. So as you see him watching around carefully, preparing himself for the start here. There goes the pace car, and now it's under control of Van de Zandt. Waiting patiently, he's going to hold them, and now he's on it. Green flag is out here for round 2 in the Camel GT series. It looks like Laust Olsen got jumped a little bit, but not a lot. He'll hold on to second place as they approach turn 1 in through the north curve. Couple cars taking off to the runoff, but otherwise a very nice start.
Great jump from Yuka Leskala in the GTOs, with Topi Kortaniemi following him, taking the outside line around Ove Trangrade. They're all line and trail as they go through the first corner. It looks like Javier Mosquera and Javier Del Olmo have gotten together. The GTPs, the GTOs coming up on them quickly.
Can only be one Javier, and they've made contact, unfortunately, been spun around. They'll get going before these cars reach them. You can see the clouds of smoke still dissipating as the Audis now head down the parabolica for the first time in anger.
Yeah, it was a great move from Ian Brassfield to jump to the inside of Arimas Zelinskas to take away 4th position. That's a great opportunity there. Topi Kortanini looking on the back of Yuka Leskala, right on board with him as he's fallen back a little bit into the clutches of Ove Trangrade. We know Trangrade is really good on the brakes and really good at defense. How good is he on attack? He's going to get onto the loud pedal very quickly. He might have an opportunity when they come into the right-hander.
And Doug Cloud made a heck of a slide as he got almost turned around, I think, by Yankee in the end. But he'll get away with it, just powering down. May have used up quite a bit of tire in the process, though. He left a stream of smoke behind him. Continuing to watch from Topi Kortanemi. here in, Ove Trangerade here in third place. He just took a third place over in Lotus 49s earlier this morning over at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, Michael Jenke has some front left damage. That's going to be he's going to be carrying that for the rest of the race. That's going to be a big issue for him when it comes to the straight line speed. Up front in the GTPs is fairly close between Van der Sant and Last Olsen, only separated by a second. But also the GTP field is not very strung out. They're all separated by about a second to about half a second. So all these drivers trying to hang on to their cars right now, just trying to keep it clean. They're going to be on the back of the GTOs fairly quickly this race.
And they're down into the Spitzkara once again on board with Olsen. Only behind by about 3/4 of a second from Van der Sant, but he's dropped Reed by almost a second and a half already. Top two seem to have much better speed here in the early stages as they head towards the stadium once more. I think you're right that because the laps are so short, we're going to see them cycle back around here very quickly.
Also, there's not a lot of turns on this track, so I think the tires are going to be cool for probably another lap or two for all these drivers involved. So as we see Last Olsen snaking through, very calm on the controls. Look how gentle he is. Look how smooth he is on the wheel. This is why he's fast. You know, he hasn't had the best luck over the last couple seasons, but he's been very quick. And as you can see, just very gentle on the controls. You see him do that little preparatory right swing that got the rear end out just a little bit, and then he caught the car and just rode it on that corner going around, rode it on that angle going around the first corner. So a great job from him. Looks like Arturas Kundelis has gone around in the GTPs. He's still parked.
He's not just gone around, he's gone over. He's rolled over and then gone over the fence. And as we watch this replay here, you'll see exactly what I mean. Through the north curve, such a fast corner. This is the south curve right here. So the last corner on the lap, and then it's up through the first one. I wonder if maybe he hit one of the curbs that unsettled the car.
Let's find out. He's going to come to the corner, took a little bit of grass on the entry and quite a bit of curb on exit, and then he just catches it. He tries to save it and catches it the wrong direction. Oh, hit the curb on the exit of the course, and that just propelled him on top of the barrier. So saying hi to the marshals over there.
Thankfully, it looks like everybody came away safe. He wanted to drive away from it, but nothing doing. I'm hoping we'll be able to get a replay as well of Doug Cloud's slide, but we're working on that one. In the meantime, it's still Van der Sant ahead of Olsen. Reed still in third. That wreck, I believe, promoted Aaron Humphrey up into P5 as well. Sounds like we got a bit of a battle down for second place really, in the GTOs. That's Korteniemi leading along Trangerade and Brassfield.
Yeah, Trangrade's been able to hang on to the back of Korteniemi for a while, and Brassfield honestly showing some very good speed here in that GTO. Doug Cloud getting past Marty Ollie in the background, but Ian Brassfield doing a really good job putting pressure on Ove Trangerade. Ove Trangerade is a master of defense, but when he defends, it tends to make him slower compared to the drivers up ahead. He loses a little bit of time, so I think that's what's going on right now.
All right, looks like we've got a replay of that slide. Let's take a look here. This was lap 1, and Doug did a fantastic job keeping himself from losing a spot. We might have to fast forward just a little bit because this is the start of the race before they've even taken the green flag. This is down into the hairpin. And yeah, so we'll just watch them get the start here. Let's see what happened before he got to that point for Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. So Doug's in the back of the pack right now. The back of the pack was quite compressed when we came up to this corner here. Going through the Parabolica is where he tried to make his move. As you can see, a couple of drivers making moves there. That was Brassfield and Ian Haycox taking a defensive move. The 28 there of Doug Cloud, he was right up on the back of Ian coming out of the kind of Parabolica. But now we come through the Parabolica itself, and he's going to be right on Ian Haycox. He thinks he's got an opportunity. So he's going to take a move. He's going to look to the outside and try and outbrake Ian, but unfortunately just locks up here. And
that's the car behind locked up. Yeah.
There he makes a little bit of contact with Ian, and that unsettles the car, gets the weight off the rear tires, and that's what leads them to spin up. Everyone scrambling to avoid him as he gets back on track.
I mean, he kept his foot in that the entire time, did not lift, and it righted the car with the four-wheel drive, so he carries on in ninth because of that, but he has lost a lot of ground to those in front. And it looks like he's forming quite a train because of it, too.
Yeah, Doug just got past Marty, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like he can run away at all. From 9th down to 14th. These are the last runners in the GTOs, and they're all stacked together, 5 cars in this battle for the 9th spot, and they're losing time to Josh Brain up ahead.
So Brain probably going to use this to his advantage as best he can. You can see a little crinkle on the wing around the back of Doug.
I think that Ove Trenger might make a move on Topi Kortanimi this time around. They're going into the hairpin following the parabolica right now. And Trangerade does not take the opportunity, but they're very close up right now. Yuka sliding those tires through that final corner. But these drivers, very close together. The GTP's about to catch the back of the GTOs, and we know how compressed those GTOs are, those 5 drivers battling with each other. The top 4 in the GTPs separated by a second apiece.
Yeah, you can look down there on the way, all the way to the hairpin. You can see how many cars are still in a line.
4 wide, 3 wide for 10th position in the GTOs. Very tight stuff for these drivers, and that is Taurus Vosberg, who makes a 4-position pass. Can he hang on to it? The answer is no. Doug Cloud's going to go around the outside. It's a heavily banked turn here. It's possible Doug could make this work. They're going to go side by side through here. Doug does make it work.
Wow, impressive stuff. It's still difficult on the outside of that narrow hairpin through Sachs curve. So I give him a lot of credit there. And here comes our leaders. Van de Sant has caught the back of this group. This is going to be throwing the cat amongst the pigeons.
Absolutely, and here comes the cat. He's going to pounce on those pigeons. He has to break for the first turn. He's able to do so. Laust Olsen able to find a gap as well, but Van der Sant should be clear of all these Audis before they hit the parabolica. That's going to hold up Laust Olsen. Fabian Nunbluth has gone around as well in the GTPs as Timothy Reed chasing down Laust Olsen as Laust has to hold up. This is very intense stuff. The Audis don't want to give an inch.
Oof. Yeah. So Olsen able to sneak through, so does Timothy Reed, but look at what this is doing for this GTO battle as Yankee is going to try and hold on.
Fuentes diving
it. Oh no. Oh, wow. They get away with it, but barely. Great heads up by every single person involved in that. 4 wide with multi-class traffic, and they came out without a scratch.
That was great work from everybody. I think everyone just realized that everyone on their inside just took too much out of the corner. Taurus Vosberg looking to the inside of Doug Cloud there. As we go back up to the front, Ove Trangerade has made the move on Topi Kortanimi up to 2nd position. He's trying to bring Ian Brassfield with him.
Looks like Brassfield was not able to capitalize. He will stay in 4th position. Topi gets overtaken. Ove is already 2 seconds behind Leskala, who's once again running away from everybody. He tends to do that when you let him get a lead, although he has not been impervious to some bad luck or bad decisions in traffic. So this one's not over, even though he's starting to pull away.
Riding on board with Laust Olsen now as we head into the corner before the parabolica. Now we head into the parabolica. Laust held up a little bit behind Zelinskas, but Reed behind him was held up a little bit by Timothy Vaughn. So they're all separating these battles for the GTOs, and we're seeing this happen quite a bit throughout the field. It looks like Reed Miller actually just got turned around by Mark Koosters, and this was a gigantic moment in front of a couple of the other GTPs as well. Fortunately, he doesn't have any damage, I don't believe, but he's way off the pack now.
Yeah, a slide very similar to Doug Cloud's, but was not able to get it righted in time. Almost looked like Laust Olsen having some connection issues here. That is not going to do him well in a scenario where he needs to be able to tell what's going on and others need to tell where he is. He's going to try and go around 1, maybe 2 through the hairpin. No, he's only going to get past Brassfield. Next up is Kortanemi just in front of him. Uses that as a buffer between.
Yeah, Kortanemi actually blocked Olsen there on that corner. Olsen's going to try and follow Kortanemi through, but that allows Timothy Reed to get right on his tail. Kortanemi using the GTPs. That's a pick between himself and Brassfield. Laust Olsen's going to be able to sneak through on Ove Trangerade. Timothy Reed's going to dive it down to the inside, take away the corner from Ove Trangerade. That's going to allow Topi Kortanemi to close up right behind him.
That was both battles for 2nd place crossing paths, so no wonder neither was willing to give way there. I'm just glad that they got out the other side without making contact. And Timothy Reed did lose time on Laust Olsen. However, for Ove Trangerade, it allowed Kortanemi to get close briefly. Oh, and something has happened to Doug Cloud that has sent him into pit lane, and he sounds pretty incensed over the radio.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, and I can't find Oh, it was that moment into the hairpin after the parabolica that we saw. I believe that possibly gave him some damage that he's in the pits for. He does have a black flag, so I'm not sure what that's for.
Surely he doesn't have enough incidents at this point to
that
be
would be
in
insane. But we got a move going on for third position in the GTOs. Brassfield and Cortiniemi. Cortiniemi almost made the pass on Brassfield as he was slow through the corner. Aaron Humphrey, who's battling with Daniel Gomez and Jack David Spickett. The GTP's trying to get through, but Topi's not giving any quarter to these GTPs at all. That allows Gomez to come through. Side-by-side contact between Gomez and Humphrey.
Someone's going to lose out here between these two. They can't make it through here 3 wide. So who's got the right line? It keeps switching back and forth on them. Nobody can get an advantage until they get to the front straight, almost getting hit in the side by Topi Cortiniemi. Gomez finally has the 5th place as they slide through the first corner, but it was touch and go.
Yeah, Topi is being very assertive with these GTPs, and at some point someone's going to send him because the GTPs are on this track, don't have time to let the GTOs really take their own lines. So the GTPs are going to be a little rude about it today, and I think that's what Topi's expecting, but it could cause problems. Look at this. Jack David Spickett with a good run on Humphrey. Humphrey a little down on straight line speed right now. As you can see, Spickett on the inside, but it's not over yet. Who has it on the brakes? It's looking like it's going to be Spickett, but can he get the corner exit? Humphrey over under, but he can't get the power down. Neither can Spickett. They're going to go side by side down the back straight.
It's a drag race, but in this case, they don't head into the Mercedes arena like they traditionally do. It's going to be a long ways before they get to Mobile 1, and a fast swing into the corner inside to Humphrey at first. He breaks deeper into the corner, gets a little bit more of an advantage. It carries on side by side, but now they come upon the leader in the GTOs, and unfortunately for Spickett, he has no place to go and has to give way to Humphrey.
JDS has to back off. That allows Mark Koosters to come through. Look at this. Hugo Lesko taking an inside line, sliding it through the corner. That's going to give up the inside to the final corner to Jack David Spickett. Koosters stays behind and is going to be able to clear Yuka Leskola pretty effectively, but here comes Jason Clapper from the back of the field trying to duke it out with Koosters now.
Fascinating stuff between these drivers out here and the way the traffic is working. But we're only about a quarter of the way into the race. We don't expect any pit stops yet.
We got to move for second position for between Brassfield and Cortiniemi, third position rather in the GTOs, as we see another battle between Timothy Reed and Pepe Fuentes. Fuentes doing a great job today.
So that's now up to third, a gain of 2 for him. But can he hold off Timothy Reed in this? Meanwhile, back to Brassfield and Cortiniemi fighting for the last step on the podium themselves. Someone coming up the inside in the prototypes, that's Jungbluth, and a defense from Cortiniemi rebuffs Brassfield through the corner.
Yeah, I think... Cortiniemi almost cutting off Fabian Jungbluth. Cortiniemi is making no friends out here today. I don't think Brassfield's going to like how Cortiniemi is moving under braking either. So I think Brassfield's in a position... I don't know, man. I mean, Cortiniemi's going to not be given any quarter. He's going to be given what he's serving himself shortly if he's not careful.
Yeah, to be fair to Topi, I think he didn't expect that he was going to outgun the Nissan out of the corner in that fashion. I mean, and that he would be all the way off the track like that. So
that's the first thing that I expected, to be honest with you, this race was that the Audis would be much faster off of that hairpin. And we've seen that happen over the course of this race, that's been the case. I don't think what he expected. I don't honestly think, Joe, that he was looking out his front windshield. I think he was looking out his rearview mirror to see how Brassfield got off the corner, and that's probably what ended up happening.
But regardless, they did come away without anybody making contact, so all's well that ends well, I suppose. And on board with Timothy Vaughn now, sitting in 6th position. That's Zelinskas up ahead of him in the battle for 5th. Going to be a very tricky track for these Audis just because of that horrible gearbox that often provides them a bit of a puzzle to try and get up through. And yeah, here we go. This is a good run.
Yeah, it's an understatement that this thing is a challenge. You get used to it over time, but as we go into braking, Timothy Vaughn making that pass, he's going to get the over-under from Zelinskas, and Jack David Spickett has gone around, and he's taking to the pits, unfortunately.
I think this was his own doing, and yeah. Whoa. Well, you know, we've talked for a long time. Okay, so we'll have to follow this for a bit because this goes into Mobile 1, and this is coming into the Parabolica right now. But we've talked for a long time about wanting to see the gravel behave more realistically. Well, in real life, if you come into the gravel and dig in at a high speed, it's often a very bad thing and can roll the car. That's exactly what happens to Jack here. In fact, it looks frighteningly realistic.
All right, so here he comes down the back straight carrying a lot of speed. And if you don't nail the liftoff and steer correctly going into Mobile 1, you're going to end up in the gravel on the outside. In the past, you could just ride that out. But today, he gets the rear going and absolutely digs in. That car flipping multiple times and also ending up on the barrier. So that's 2 GTPs stuck on the barrier today.
Wow, so that's why he had to tow, and that's a real shame. He had such a good run in the Lotus 49s this morning, gained 29 positions and finished 11th, but he's not going to have the same sort of run out here as we go back to the battle between Fuentes and Reed.
Yeah, Fuentes has been making some good time trying to gap Reed, but unfortunately just can't quite escape from him. But honestly, our top 4, very, very close together, only separated by 5 seconds. So these GTPs are just about to start coming through the GTOs again. And most of the GTO battles have been separated with the exception of Zelinskis and Vaughn. Vaughn trying to make his way past Zelinskis once again, and he's going to be able to get that move done. But as you can see, Timothy Reed just trying to hang on to Fuentes at this point, just about on the edge of the draft envelope at 1.2 seconds.
And they're not that far behind Olsen, too. It's 1.5 seconds up to there, and Van de Sande about 2 more seconds up the road. So there hasn't been a huge gap, especially this far into the race, between the top of the GTPs. And as we know, the traffic can often gain or lose you way more than those 2 seconds very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing that right now with Alexander Van der Sande, who's actually stuck in behind Daniel Repetto and Taurus Vosberg, who are battling for the 11th position. He just lost 2 seconds right there to Laust Olsen, who's going to be able to get past both of those battlers very quickly. So Laust Olsen now within a second of Van der Sande up ahead, but we know how fast Van der Sande is in a straight line. He gains back about a half second just in a couple of corners.
Yeah, and he has some clear track for at least half a lap here before they're going to get up to Martiali, the next one up the road. So hopefully that will help him. Meanwhile, it looks like Cortinemi might have a good shot at taking P2 back from Trangarade here.
Absolutely. Topi Cortinemi to the inside of Trangarade and just outguns him into Mobile 1. Trangarade trying to come back at him, but Topi absolutely late on in this stint, or rather midway through this stint, showing a lot of speed right now, and he's putting the pressure on. He's got 5.6 seconds up to Yuko Leskala. That's going to be a hard gap to close down, but if anyone can do it, it's the other Flying Finn.
Yeah, but I fear that may be too great of a gap to do on raw pace. He's going to need a little bit of luck on his side, most likely.
Shift from Ian Brassfield in the background, unfortunately coming out of the final corner. There's that gearbox that you mentioned, Joe, biting Brassfield.
So that loses him down to almost 2 seconds behind Ove Trangarade. He's got some work to do now. Meanwhile, as we've seen, action happening now
P1.
with Laust catching up to the leader. Yes.
Yeah, and here comes Pepe Fuentes as well. He's in the battle for this, so these GTOs are causing havoc for the lead of our GTPs, and honestly, Van der Sande and Laust Olsen are about to catch up to the back of some more battles. That's for 7th position between Haycox and Brain, and 5th position between Vaughn and Zelinskis. Should be catching them both towards the end of this lap.
Apparently there was some contact between Van de Sande and one of the GTOs, which is what brought this together. We'll want to try and pull up that replay in a bit. Hopefully he didn't damage the front. This is a car you want to be fast in a straight line at this place.
Yeah, I think he did. I'm seeing the speeds increase, and yeah, Laust Olsen's faster in a straight line than Van de Sande right now. It's very marginal, but I do think that Van der Sande did catch a little bit of damage. Now he's coming up on Josh Brain here through a really challenging portion of the track to pass for the GTPs. He's going to be able to get Brain fairly well, but he's going to be stuck behind Ian Haycox unless Ian gives him one of these corners.
So similar to what Van de Sande experienced before, except this time he doesn't get into the back of Haycox. He's having to wait patiently, and it is eating up that gap tremendously as we watch from on board the view of Laust Olsen, sticking with him down through the north curve. They got one more car, 2 more cars to go through. Zelinskis and Vaughn both fighting for position here.
He'll only be able to get one. Van der Sant only gets one. Laus is going to try and follow Van der Sant through, but Zolskis has to make that corner. That opens up the door to Fuentes, who takes it. He just absolutely takes it away from Laus Olsen, but he's slow off the corner. That's going to allow Laus Olsen to come back. Can Olsen get up the inside and make a pass? He tried to use Vaughn like a pick, but didn't quite have the overlap. Here we come under braking. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? It's Pepe, but does he go too deep? Yes.
Oh, thought he had that position. It was a great opportunity grabbed by him, but just wasn't quite there. What this has done is meant that Van der Sant has started to run away a little bit and gap himself over those two. Here we go back into the stadium, and no, it looks like Fuentes isn't there.
Yeah, Fuentes has got to be careful here. He doesn't want to battle Laus Olsen at the expense of having an opportunity at the lead. We're still got 38 minutes to go left in this race. We still got a pit stop to go. Now is not the time to be duking it out for positions when you're going to lose time to the leader, and they're not doing that right now. Laus Olsen now tucked up right behind Van der Sant. Oh, he loses it coming out of the corner.
Clips the wall. That's going to be a little bit of damage, but it's enough he can carry on. Swings it back around.
The lead's gonna go. Pepe Fuentes really has an opportunity here on Van der Sant. But Van der Sant using Topi Kortaniemi as a pick. Pepe looks to the inside, can't quite get there. And contact behind. Timothy Reed gets into the side of Topi Kortaniemi and collects Ove Trangrade.
Oh my goodness, that completely changes the nature of that battle. Up in second for the GTOs. Trangrade is now well out of it. Brassfield gets to move forward. There's the spin in the background. This is what happened with Timothy Reed, though. Yeah. And I think this is a little overambitious from Tim.
This is a very late move. Look at this. Topi's already turning in for the corner, and Timothy just sends it like a spear, unfortunately. Had nowhere to go. He couldn't go to the outside because that's where Ove Trangrade was, so he had to pick a victim, and it ended up being Ove Trangrade.
Yeah, both cars compromised by that one. We don't know how much damage Topi has because of it. Brassfield is perhaps the one who gets away the luckiest, promoted to third, and with a clean car.
And here we go once again. Pepe Fuentes right on the back of Van der Sant. Van der Sant getting held up by our leader, Yuko Leskala. They should be able to get both by him clean before they get to the Nord curve. But Pepe Fuentes going to the outside. He's going to try and take away the exit. Oh, thinks better of it. Van der Sant, though, slides it through the Nord curve. That's going to give an opportunity to Fuentes to get to the inside.
Whew. Unbelievable stuff here from Fuentes. I was not expecting him to be one to be battling for this lead, and he takes it down into the Parabolica entry. Van der Sant will be able to try and fight back through the Parabolica, riding in the toe. Does he have enough that he can snatch it into the hairpin?
Here he goes to the inside. Van der Sant's going to try and do it under braking. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? It's going to be Pepe Fuentes, but he's stuck on the outside. He's going to try and do the over-under, but it's not quite as effective with the GTP as it is in the GTO, and he gets a bad exit. That's going to allow Van der Sant to hold on to this on this straightaway. But how much damage does Van der Sant have on the front nose because of the contact with the Audi before? How much top speed is he going to lose? The answer is not quite enough to make a move into the Mobil 1 corner.
There is one win to the name of Pepe Fuentes in the prototypes. So he's stood up there before, but it's been a little bit since that. Let's see if he can return to the top step and up against a man who has proven to be very quick in what little time we've seen Van der Sant racing in this series.
Yeah, Van der Sant has been up there battling for podiums, battling for top fives. He's had a couple of opportunities at wins, and he's trying to take the bull by the horns today, and I think that he's got a good opportunity, but he has to hold off a very powerful Pepe Fuentes behind. It's going to be all about traffic management for these drivers. Fuentes has been much better on traffic management than Van der Sant, and I think that might be what decides this battle today.
Another track that can go a little bit crazy, Willow Springs, was where Pepe last had his win about a month ago when he finally broke that duck, and clearly he's riding that wave of momentum to try and get another one, as Javier Del Olmo back here still in the hunt and chasing on Jason Clapper, who I assume must have recently passed him since he usually comes from the back of the field. Look to the inside, going to try and outbrake him into the hairpin, but getting on the throttle out of here is the tricky bit. Both of them trying to get down there as quickly as they can, and it is going to go to Del Olmo.
It's important to note Van der Sant has not won yet, Joe, in this series. He's gotten 2 podiums, over the course of this race, over the course of this series, but he has not won. So he's looking for his maiden win while Pepe's looking for his second.
Wow. Okay. So interesting. That's a bit surprising with the speed that we've seen out of Alex, but I guess just his newness to the series means he hasn't had the right opportunity yet. As we watch from on board at Fuentes, they are 13 seconds ahead of Laust Olsen. I'd say they're free to race.
Absolutely, they're free to race, and Pepe's going to take every opportunity that he can. In fact, he might take an opportunity down into the hairpin here. It looks like Mark Koosters has gone around in the background as Van de Sant goes very defensive, and Fuentes tries to go around the outside. Once again, the over-under not effective here for the GTPs on this corner.
It's been a day of a lot of rollovers. We've had another one with Mark Koosters now, and I'm not sure. I guess he just hit the barrier wrong, but the car wound up on its lid out of turn one. But Van de Sant indeed back to the lead, coming through the hairpin ahead of Fuentes. And as they work their way around the stadium section to complete the lap, who is going to blink first among them to take their pit stop?
Yeah, so it's important to note for everyone who's watching and driving iRacing and you haven't won a race yet, neither has Van de Sant in this series, and he's a very fast driver. He's been up there battling for podiums, up there battling for top fives, consistently one of the faster drivers on track. It's all about being in the right place at the right time, taking the opportunities that you have. It's not necessarily the fact that you're not fast enough to win. Winning is just as much skill and just as much luck as it is skill sometimes, especially in a series like this one. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And Van de Sant and Pepe Fuentes, as long as they keep it clean, they might be the people to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it's no wins in 12 starts for Van de Sant. So he's been around for a season, but unable to make good on that pace. Is this the time where he finally has been able to do so and beat out Pepe Fuentes for it? As you can see, he's just still remaining a threat in the background, hovering behind him, letting him know he's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're catching up to the back of some of the GTOs as well, so that'll come to affect them as we take a look at the battle for P2 of the GTOs between Brassfield and Cortinami. Brassfield just hanging out behind Cortinami. They haven't really had an opportunity to battle because of all the GTPs coming through. No! Sorry, Van de Sant going to the pits has knocked out Pepe Fuentes because Fuentes didn't expect him to go.
Wow. Okay, so that is quite the development. Let's get the replay on this. And yeah, he gets into the back of him just barely enough to spin Pepe, but not Alex. Here is where it's going to be, out or into the south curve here.
And Pepe honestly doesn't owe Fuentes a signal that he's going into the pits. And there's the moment. He went really wide to get into the pits, Joe. I mean, that's not illegal, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, just a victim of circumstance there. I wonder if he is going to try and take some repairs to whatever damage he might have.
No.
Fuentes stays out, obviously, and is still leading ahead of Humphrey because Olsen has also pitted.
Yeah, Fuentes just came in and out, and he's 28 seconds behind. Sorry, Van de Sant came in and out. He's 28 seconds behind Fuentes. Van de Sant's pit stop took a total of 36 seconds in the lane, so that spin from Fuentes has taken him out of contention for the lead of this race right now.
Okay, so Fuentes now has to try and climb his way back forward. He did get turned around pretty quickly, so maybe he's not going to lose out to Olsen. And I thought he was going to respond, but Pepe almost fainted as if he was going in. He was dealing with traffic of Reed Miller instead. He'll keep out.
Here's Timothy Vaughn and Arimas Zelenskis, and Zelenskis trying to look to the inside of Vaughn is not going to try the heavy braking, but yeah, I think it makes sense for Pepe to stay out right now. The reason why is because of that moment that he just had. If he jumps into the pits, he's going to get out behind Van de Sant, and then he's going to have to try and follow him through. I think trying to do the overcut is his best opportunity now that that accident has happened.
Gomez and Humphrey both take their pit stops now, so looks like it pretty much exactly halfway. Drivers are electing to get some fresh tires and put the rest of the fuel in for this race. In the prototypes, at least, GTOs are still going.
Yeah, and Brassfield's really tucked in behind Kotinami right now. I think Kotinami is starting to lose a little bit of front tire grip. when it comes to his Audi. He's looking very uncomfortable right now on his tires, pushing very hard, pushing that car very hard, lots of exit speed, but he's really struggling to rotate the car through the corners, whereas Brassfield, a little bit less exit speed, but seems to be a little bit more comfortable in that machine.
Interesting to note that it looks like Van de Sant has come out in traffic and has had to fight with Javier Mascara. So Alex might be running enough of slow laps, like you said, that he could at least be caught up by Pepe Fuentes if he goes long here.
And Pepe's in.
That's not going to be enough laps, though.
Yeah, and it was an 8-second gap, even with that, so it's going to be tough. But Van de Sant just saw that he was off track a little bit, so I believe he's still stuck in behind Michael Yankee, so he's losing a lot of time right now. Pepe Fuentes into the box. He's in his box right now, trying to take some of that pit stop. Van de Sant goes by the pit entry, and yeah, it's no question that Van de Sant's going to retain this lead.
I think the bigger question is Laust Olsen going to catch Pepe. Here he is. He's rolling. There's Laust Olsen off of the final corner. Pepe is just exiting, so it looks like he'll be clear of Laust, but the Scandinavian driver is now a lot closer than he was before.
Yeah, so in regard, it doesn't look like anyone's going to have anything for Van de Sant at the moment, unless traffic plays once again. Van de Sant, currently the highest pitter, only 9 seconds out of the lead, and his nearest hitter is
Pepe.
good 9. Yeah, Pepe Fuentes 9 seconds behind him. So Van de Sant is pretty free and clear. He can be a little bit more cautious through traffic now.
Just a quick mention on the GTOs, Yuko Leskala is still leading down there. It's now up to about 12 seconds. There he is right there on your screen now. So he is, I mean, nowhere near. You can't even see on these long straights Topi Kortaniemi. He's so far behind.
Yeah, on top of that, his fastest lap is 3/10 faster than Topi Kortaniemi. About 2/10 faster than Brassfield, who's got a faster lap time than Kortaniemi. But that being said, he's still lapping 1/10 faster than Topi Kortaniemi as of last lap, and 3/10 faster than Brassfield. So Yuko Leskala, last we checked in on him, was 6 seconds ahead. He's doubled that gap now. It's an impressive driver right there.
That's why he has as many championships as he does down in those GTOs. In fact, I'll have to go and add those up here in a second, see what number he's up to at this stage. But Topi is dealing admirably with Brassfield behind him. Ian's been a bit of a revelation here, only showing up recently, but being very quick from the word go.
Yeah, absolutely. Not even on our sheets, so clearly showed up for one of the first times last race. So Brassfield doing a great job putting it to these fins, especially Topi, who has not been able to escape Brassfield's clutches. Yeah, the last driver to put a challenge to Yuko Leskala was Javier Del Olmo. For those who may have tuned in late in the season, last season, Yuko Leskala was racing last season, but just fell afoul of quite a few incidents and ended up dropping out towards the end of the season, which freed up Javier Del Olmo to take the championship fairly uncontested. But now with Javier gone, Topi Kortaniemi is Yuko's nearest rival, and as we can see, about 12 seconds slower this particular race. But Pepe Fuentes and Martin Krajcik side by side as they were battling out.
And Krajcik pitted, so
well, there you go.
He's abandoned that. He figured it's better to take his service now. I was able to dig it up, and Leskala has 5 championships in the GTOs.
Yeah, yeah, man, I mean, I would say that puts him up there with probably contending for greatest of all time as far as Audi drivers in the Camel series since we started broadcasting. And I think if he wins the championship this year, that would put him solidly on top.
Yeah, Yoni Hagner level stuff, honestly.
Yeah,
from
definitely.
And Yoni, I think, only has one for what it's worth. So,
I mean, he was duking it out with Phil Lake at Phil's prime, so it goes to show you that these Audi drivers have had a lot of competition towards the front of the field. It's only been the last couple seasons where we've seen dominance from people like Del Olmo and Yuko Leskala, but they're making the most of it, I tell you.
Absolutely. Usually it's a bit of a toss-up in those GTOs if you don't have Leskala there on who is going to take the win. because it could be anybody's day when you're watching. And I think Ian Brassfield might get one of his victories eventually, the pace that he's been showing. As we can see, a lot of it is just staying out of trouble over the course of the race, and then you got to take what's coming your way and grab it with both hands. Pepe Fuentes now with the fastest lap of the race last time, and he's in fourth, but he will get promoted to second once we get Del Olmo and Mosquera pitting.
Yeah, so this is definitely starting to heat up, especially the battle for sixth and seventh place. Zelenskas having to able to free himself from Martiali, but still in the clutches of Ian Haycox, as we see Laus Olsen. Honestly, the GTPs are fairly separated right now post their pit stops, so it's going to take traffic to bring them back together, as most of them are running consistently similar times.
Curious to see how long they can go before they need these pit stops. Zelenskas and Ian Haycox fighting with one another, except for a little bit of a touch of the grass there for Haycox. Sends him out, and picking it up, it is Aramus who is able to just snatch it away very quickly. Ian decides now's a good time maybe to pit in.
Yeah, sometimes when you make this kind of mistakes, it's a good signal to come in, take a deep breath, get back out there. So I believe that he's got a good opportunity to retain that position with the undercut here as Zelenskas staying out. So Ian Haycox, our first really front mid-pack to front runner who's taken to the pits. Doug Cloud was the other one, but he had that early black flag, so he's likely going to have to pit again.
So Ian taking service. There it is. 19.6 seconds. I believe Josh Brains. Yeah, Josh Brain has had a scheduled stop. Looks like Reed Miller and Daniel Repetto. So there have been other cars, but Ian, I'd say, is one of our first front runners to really take it and get back out there. Speaking of the front runners, back to the battle for P2 between Topi and Ian.
Topi Kortaniemi and Ian Brassfield. Brassfield has been putting pressure on Kortaniemi this entire time. If he takes an undercut, I think he'd have an opportunity to pass Topi, but he's got to decide when to do it. Is it now? Is it later? It's looking like it's not now, so it's got to be later, but he seems fairly comfortable where he is. He might be saving some time, but yeah, he's got a good opportunity. He's got Topi on the ropes right now. He just needs to make that uppercut swing and that risk that comes with taking to the pits. So he might need to make that in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, he's got nothing to lose. Trangrade's still 4 seconds behind. He's not likely to get caught out by pitting opposite him. So aim forward and see if you can overtake Topi through strategy, because clearly it's been tough trying to do it on track.
Exactly, and Topi's very, very stout defender. So as you can see, just indicating defense, and we've seen how much he's willing to put his elbows out to maintain a position. I think the best way you're going to be able to make that pass without losing time to Trangrade behind is going to be in the pits. So I think the best he can do is to snuggle up right behind him coming out of that penultimate corner and then dive to the pits. So, well, here comes a GTP. Should be clear by the time they get to Mobile 1. But yeah, I think, like you said, best opportunity is going to be in the pit lane for Ian Brassfield.
Still waiting on Del Olmo and Mosquera to pit in the GTPs. So Javier Del Olmo is our leader. Have to get used to 2 of them out there these days. Javier Del Olmo is your current leader, but we'll hand that over at some point. He cannot make it to the end on a single tank of gas and must take a pit stop. Quite a bit of damage on the left-hand side. I didn't notice that before on Brassfield here.
Yeah, maybe that's why he's tucked in so close behind, is because of that damage. He's just trying to mitigate the aerodynamic issues that come from that. But that even puts a little bit more emphasis for me on him needing to come in early, as we watch Pepe Fuentes make the pass on Javier Mosquera. Fuentes has pit, Mosquera has not. Mosquera is gonna duke it out with Fuentes for no, he's gonna back off of it. I was gonna say that was gonna be a little bit questionable when it comes to a judgment call there, because he hasn't pit yet, so he'd just be losing time to the driver, well, quite frankly, the drivers around 7th and 8th position if he were to take that battle.
I was able to track down where Ian got this damage, and he hit the wall here. Watch, they have to get right up against the entry wall, and he just brushed it a little too close and smacked it. And I think that has hurt his pace a little bit. Look how he's not on top of Topi anymore, at least until Mosquera slowed him down there.
Yeah, I think he's lost some of that left front drive. This happens very easily in the Audi, where the four-wheel drive for each corner is extremely sensitive. So if you make damage with that corner, it knocks out the drive for that corner. And since most corners on this track, in fact, all of them except for 2 are right-handers, that's going to be severely affecting Brassfield's speed.
Yeah, got to think that's going to make
Jason
the car.
Clapper, though, on the back of Daniel Gomez for 7th position in the GTPs. This is a battle on track with drivers who have pit. So this is a true on-track battle.
Good point. So for 7th place currently, might be for a little bit higher. We're waiting on Mosquera to pit in. And if he'll hand them the position back. Good slipstream here down the Parabolica for Jason Clapper. Is this where he makes the move down into the hairpin? He's going to look, maybe. Yes, pops out down to the inside. But now he's got to be smooth on the throttle on the way out. Over under there for Gomez as he tries to come back at him. Nothing doing. Jason takes 7th.
In high downforce machines, I find that hairpin to be the most infuriating corner I think on any track, because it's so tight and so slow that if you try and do the over-under on a driver, oh boy, Jason Clapper going very wide there, manages to hang on to it. But as I was saying, if you do the over-under on that corner, you just don't have enough torque on the bottom end to out-drag the guy on the outside unless he makes a mistake. As they come up to Ove Trenger, he's going to put a bottle in this. Daniel Gomez to the inside. He's going to cork up Jason Clapper and squeeze by.
Nicely done by Gomez. Read that one very well, but Clapper maybe in a little bit of survival mode. Didn't want to risk taking out Ove Trangerade there and stayed out of the gas, even when he could have maybe risked it a little bit more. So Clapper moves back down to 8th, but here we go again. He did this once before. Can he do a repeat?
They've got the battle for 2nd position in the GTOs up ahead of them. That's Topi Kortaniemi and Ian Brassfield. They're going to catch them probably on the back straight, if not into Mobile 1. Gomez very deep on the brakes, able to make the corner just fine. Both of them having to go wide on the exit here as we see a very slow Daniel Repetto. Interesting. It might be interesting to see what happened there. He's second to last, though, to Doug Cloud. But as they go past, this is going to be close into Mobile 1. I think Clapper's going to have to take the corner. He thinks better of it. As Javier Delomo comes into the pits, relinquishes the lead once again to Van de Sant.
And that separates that battle there for 7th. I looked into Repetto.
Oh! That's Gomez going off.
Did he get help there?
No.
All on his own little Sebastian Vettel moment, unfortunately, into the Sachs hairpin. He doesn't wind up in the barrier like Seb did, but he certainly is going to be kicking himself for giving away that position.
Yeah, he was interesting. So this is all set up through Mobile 1, and he's doing fine, hits the brakes, and slides the rears. He just braked too late going into that corner. Fortunately, the gravel's there to stop him and doing exactly what it needed to do, but most of our leaders in the GTOs have bit now. Yuka Leskala in, Ove Trangerade in, and Ian Brassfield in. So Ian Brassfield does come in ahead of Topi Kortaniemi, so good opportunity for him.
So only need Topi, Timothy Vaughn, Aremo Salinskas to pit. Looks like Marty Arley still needs his, and Taurus Vosberg.
Ove's out of the car.
Oh.
Ove Trangerade's out of what happened to him?
And he's out of the server too, so he's taking it behind the wall into the garage. Wow.
I'll have to look into maybe he collected some damage on his in lap, but that's surprising.
Very surprising. Unusual for him. So now down to Topi and Brassfield on who will pit first. Leskala is still well in the theoretical lead once pit stops are over. Zelinskas just overtaking Timothy Vaughn there down into Mobile 1. Let's see if either of them pits in this time, since we still need service for them, and we're down to the final quarter of the race, so it's getting to where that pit window is narrowing.
Absolutely, Vaughn right in behind Zelinskis, and it's going to be Zelinskis who takes to the pits. Vaughn's going to stay out, so now we really get to see a comparison between undercut and overcut here. See which is the most advantageous. Ian Brassfield still, he did come into the pits. Topi Cortinami's still staying out, so Cortinami's committed to the long haul now.
Also, Van de Sant is now your leader once again as Del Olmo is pitted. That sends him down to 6. We still haven't seen Javier Mosquera take his pit stop. Laust Olsen back up into 4th here. And this will be 3rd once, well, there you go, right there. Javier Mosquera pits in. So Laust Olsen not doing too shabby, back up onto the podium positions.
No, just had his moment early on in the race and has been consistent ever since, and he just needs to retain that consistency. He's got about 2.5 seconds of Aaron Humphrey, so he can't slow down much, but he can work on being consistent. So Pepe Fuentes has cut into the lead of Van de Sant ever since the pit stops. It was at 9 seconds. It's now at 6.5, so he is gaining, but with 13 minutes left, that's not quite enough time, even if he were to continue gaining at the pace that he had been, to catch back up to Van de Sant. But Van de Sant's still losing time hand over fist right now, down to 6 seconds.
That makes me wonder if there is some damage on that car. We've been speculating about that for quite some time. I do see enough on there that I suspect it might hurt his straight line speed in a way that could be costing him as we continue to watch the battle for what is currently 2nd place. But Leskala in that white fronted car in the background is the one that will inherit the lead.
And Topi's in. Topi has come to the pits. So let's see where he comes out in relation to Brassfield. Brassfield coming off the final corner as Topi's rolling to the end of the lane. Topi rolls out with a 29.8. That's 4 seconds faster than Ian Brassfield's time on the lane, and that's going to put him out 5 seconds ahead of Brassfield on track.
Looks like Leskala getting ready to take the lead away. Vaughn should probably, I'm sure he knows that he is not fighting with Leskala here because they're on different strategies. He'll try and cut back anyways, but nothing doing. So Yuko now back to the lead. And he's going to give a nice little pull to Timothy to help him along, at least, and give him some better speed for the race. Yeah, Tim lifts and does not attempt to try and pass. He knows the deal.
I mean, unless you're out there to screw over Yuko Leskala, there's no reason to try and pass him there. You're just going to lose time yourself. Vaughn still has to take a pit stop. Even if he does a 29.8 like Topi did, that's going to lose him 30 seconds. That would put him down around Michael Janke and Reed Miller down in 9th and 10th.
Yep, doesn't pit this time, though. He'll keep going. And I highly doubt they can do anything to save fuel. This track, with its such huge straights, has to be a thirsty one for the drivers. We've seen it in places such as Detroit when they've done a 60-minute race there. Some of the GTOs have managed to go without a pit stop, but that was close.
Speaking of Detroit, I'd be interested to know if we ever get a scan of the new proposed IndyCar track for Detroit. An interesting race course for sure, but I definitely enjoy Belle Isle still being available for us in iRacing. An awesome track to race as we see Yuko Leskala clear and out in the lead. About to get passed actually by Van der Sant, our leader in the GTP. So the two leaders crossing each other once again. The gap between the two of them, 3 laps, about to be 4.
I thought you were going a different direction with that. I thought you were going to say the Mustang GTO is what you were hoping we'd get someday for this series. Get some more makes of cars.
I mean, it'd be great.
Camel.
But...
Yeah. In the meantime, Alexander Van de Sant now about 5 seconds ahead of Pepe Fuentes. Remember, it was 6 before, so it continues to chop down. Does Alex have enough of a buffer here that he can prevent Pepe from catching him in time?
Well, there is something interesting about this being more or less a spec series for each class, as we see Pepe Fuentes wrestling with trying to figure out how to go by Timothy Vaughn back out to 5.5 seconds. It's going to take Van der Sant running into traffic, and Van der Sant, quite frankly, is free and clear for a good half lap now. So it's going to be hard for Fuentes to get there, but there's something interesting about this being a spec series for each of the classes for sure as we take a look at Aaron Humphrey as he's trying to chase down Laust Olsen and gaining time. He's gained about a second since we last checked in on Laust.
Well, we've lost a few cars in this split, and with it being only 28, it is something of a smaller field, at least by Camel standards. So no wonder we're seeing a bit of clear air for some. We've lost Arturas Kundalis, who we saw roll over into the barrier. Timothy Reed is out after he had some hard contact. Mark Koosters, of course, also found the car on its lid. Jack David Spickett wound up on top of the barrier. And I think he continued on briefly. I saw him get back out on track, but came back in, so he must have had more problems and retired the car. And then Ove Trangrade, for some reason, has called it quits early and is out, leaving 23 cars still racing.
6.5 seconds, the gap from Van der Santa Fuentes and Yuka Leskala. We're not going to count Timothy Vaughn because he has yet to pit. And so unless he can make it to the end, which would be really impressive, he's still going to have to pit. It's about 12 seconds between Yuka Leskala and Topi Kortanemi. So Leskala has not been growing that gap since the pit stop, but he has been maintaining it as Vaughn takes to the pits.
All right, so there's our last driver. Topi will re-inherit second place, and we'll get a much clearer picture on where everybody is at this stage. Watching to see, I see Ian Haycox. I think actually Timothy, yeah, he's going to be well ahead of Yankee. This is much better than you were initially predicting. He'll be ahead of Doug, of course he's ahead of Doug Cloud, but ahead of Ian Haycox and is Zelinskas. Yeah, even Zelinskas.
Yeah, that was I keep forgetting how much less time in the pits you spend in the Audi when you, the Audi is, it's gravity fed fuel. So it's not a fuel pump for that machine. So you get fuel very slowly. And because of that, him having to put in less fuel means he sits in the lane less. Ian Brassfield was in the lane for 33.3 seconds. Timothy Vaughn was in the lane for 27.7 seconds. That's a 2.5 second rather. Sorry, a 5.5 second gap. I could do math, I swear. A 5.5 second difference between their pit times and 4.5 seconds in the box. So
here's the thing, though. If it's a single stopper, so theoretically they all need the same amount of fuel. And he's not going to be putting in much less. He's closer to the end, so he's got a more accurate reading of how much he needs.
Right.
But he's 5 seconds quicker. I think that's way too much.
Oh, no, he was definitely saving fuel, but like you said, it has to do with the prediction as well. How well you're able to predict your fuel to the end. When you pit earlier, you have to expect that you might be running full out a lot more. Timothy Vaughn was stuck in behind Yuka Leskala for a good 6-7 laps. Had a lot of time to save fuel. And so he took that opportunity to save fuel, do a little bit of a more accurate calculation with less variance. And that was able to save him a decent amount of time. And he was probably saving fuel throughout as well. So one thing to think about if you start further back in the pack, or if you get into a spin early, start saving fuel and make up all the time in the pits with a shorter pit stop.
I'll be impressed if he was able to save that much in comparison to all those around him, because that is a dramatic difference. And if so, that'll get him a 4th place here today over some of his rivals who definitely would have been ahead otherwise. 5 minutes left to go on the ticker in this endurance-style race. Van de Sant leads GTPs. Leskala leads GTOs. Those were the same winners that we had in round 1. I asked if it'll shake things up with this being a less common track, and kind of a no, actually.
Yeah, well, I think if we had a field of like 50, it would be a little bit of a bigger story. But this track has been, especially with the pit stops, and this tends to happen in the Camel series, the pit stops tend to spread out everything a little bit because people have very different opinions on what their pit strategy is going to be. So unless everyone pits at the same time, and even then, if everyone pits at the same time, you usually come out the lane 1.5, 2 seconds separated to each other just because of how slow the lane is. Your car, the way I think about it is that your car kind of gets bigger the slower you get, so it creates more of a time gap. When you are close together. That's why the hairpin at Long Beach tends to create time gaps instead of closer battles. But I was right on board with Laust Olsen. I think the pit stop definitely is a good strategy move, but makes things a real challenge when it comes to trying to maintain track position.
Riding on board with Laust Olsen, still looking at a podium here. He's got 3.5 seconds over Aaron Humphrey behind but it's a 10-second gap up to Pepe Fuentes. His little hiccup here coming out of the final corner earlier in the race has probably cost him. That spin is worth at least 10 seconds, and him 9 seconds behind. You got to think that he probably could have had one over on Pepe, or at least been close to try and race him for that P2. Van de Sant, maybe that'd be another story, but regardless, Laus Stolsen will at least have to be satisfied by potentially spraying the champagne today.
Absolutely. So all that consistency at this point, as he's got plenty of a gap. Aaron Humphrey was catching Laus Stolsen for a bit, but that gap spread out a little bit more now that, honestly, it's all pretty free and clear traffic in regards to the GTOs. The only exception is that Josh Brain and Doug Cloud are right next to each other, but neither of them are battling for position. But that's the only real headache that the GTPs have to navigate at this stage in the race. Aaron Humphrey still 4 seconds behind Laus Stolsen, as we just talked about. And honestly, that's the closest battle we have for the GTPs on track, as Humphrey actually gets held up a little bit by Michael Janke right now.
And I do want to actually update one story that we were following. Remember, Fuentes looked like he was chasing down Van de Sant. That has unfortunately gone the opposite direction. It's now up to 8 or 9 seconds. I was watching the laps, and when they were on their own, it did look like consistently Alex was about on the same pace as Pepe. So I think it was the traffic that was mostly pulling in the number 5 there for a little while, but it's obviously swung back as it sometimes does. And now Alex has been able to gap him a little bit more. Speaking of which, I believe this is going to be 2 laps to go here in a moment.
Yeah, 1:18s now that Van de Sant is pulling. Yeah, it's going to be 2 laps to go for Van de Sant as he's going to cross well under the 240 mark. That would indicate more than 2 laps to go. So Van de Sant has been, I wouldn't say in commanding control of this race since the beginning, but he definitely had the gumption to fight Pepe Fuentes once we had the incidents happen up ahead of him. So Van de Sant has been doing a great job at this particular race, leading from pole. Pepe Fuentes has been the impressive one. Honestly, we never expected him to be duking it out that high. Oh, Jason Clapper's gone around. This is an interesting place to go around. He was stuck in behind Marty Ollie as Marty actually got loose on the brakes going into the banked corner on the infield.
Yeah, this is into Sachs curve that you'll see this incident. This is a great view for it. On board with Jason Clapper. Show us exactly what the driver sees. Look how quickly he approaches him. The car brakes and then it almost looked like he wanted to get back to the racing line. But I think you're right that he did get loose.
Yeah, Marty got loose, and that looseness was pushing him to the outside of the track. So really good job from Jason to recover that thing. He didn't lose any positions, but that brings Daniel Gomez into 1.8 behind Jason Clapper. So with 1 lap to go, Daniel might have an opportunity, but it's going to be hard for us.
Yeah, the white flag is being pulled out for Alex Van de Sant, who is just crossing the start-finish line now. So 1 more lap remains in this endurance format for the Camel GT Series second round of Season 4. And Alex is about to go back-to-back to start things off. Jason Clapper here, as you were talking about, still sitting in 6th with a ways up in front of him due to that lost time with his spin. Pepe Fuentes not giving up on things. He sets the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, Pepe Fuentes setting the fastest lap, yeah. That's under the 17-second mark. That's the first time we've seen that since qualifying. So great racing from Pepe. Just unfortunate that he got caught up with Van de Sant going into the pits. Just was too close in behind and didn't anticipate that it was going to happen. I mean, that's a tough moment to call. You know, in the case of iRacing rules, there's nothing wrong that Van de Sant did at all. It's just an interesting thing to think about when it comes to race strategy is, you know, how close do you want to get in behind somebody when it comes to pit stop time. So
yep, got to be aware of that stuff. And here we go, last few corners. Van de Sant with a podium last time out, looking for that first win, and it comes here in Germany. as he takes victory at Hockenheim in the endurance round for the GTPs. Then Yuko Leskala has a full lap to try and run around and take victory in that number 2. In fact, I don't think anybody will be on the same lap as him.
Nope, he's alone. He has effectively won the race. He just needs to make it to the finish line.
So Topi is locked into second. Brassfield with a third place. What a race from him. Definitely going to be one to watch out for as time goes on. And Lau Stolzen did collect that third place behind Pepe Fuentes, who was second. So good to see them be able to have a good ending there in the prototypes after a hard-fought race. You could see the weaving from Del Olmo. I'd say he's satisfied with that fifth, considering he was fourth last time. That's pretty consistent, and we know that's his strong point, is getting home to the finish of these races. There's the man who is essentially already the winner in the GTO class as he comes and celebrates by sliding it around the last few corners.
Yeah, this is a true victory lap, and Yuko has pulled many of these in his time. He does this quite often, and this is why he's so practiced drifting the rally heritaged but very stiff suspensioned Audi GTO, and he's going to take his time getting to the line, putting up some smoke for the fans.
There you go. All the way around. Don't completely lose it. There it is. And takes it to the line for the win in the number 2 machine, which is going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to the Hockenheim ring. It was round 2 in the Camel GT series with Alex Van de Sant finishing in the lead for his first ever win over Pepe Fuentes, who was second. Lau Stolzen was third to round out the podium ahead of Aaron Humphreys. He does this usually, a quiet run from 7th to 4th. Javier Del Olmo was in 5th as Jason Clapper climbed from the back of the field to finish 6th. Daniel Gomez was 7th and Javier Mascara 8th, followed by Martin Krajcik 9th. Fabian Jungbluth was a lap down in 10th, and it was all DNFs from there on down in the GTPs. Let's look at the GTOs, though.
Yeah, the GTOs, Yuko Leskala came home with a commanding victory, 12 seconds over Topi Kortaniemi. Ian Brassfield took some damage going into Mobile 1, which led him to not be able to battle for Topi for the final step on the podium. Timothy Vaughn came home in the 4th position with Arimas Solinskis rounding out the top 5. Ian Haycox and Josh Brain duked it out for a decent portion of the race in 6th and 7th, with Michael Chenke in 8th position. Marty Ollie and Reed Miller round out your top 10. A good recovery from Reed Miller there. Taras Vosberg, fast over the course of most of this race, came home in 11th with Daniel Repetto in 12th. Doug Cloud had an early penalty that led him to be in the 13th position, and Obi Trengray did not finish.
Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Alex Van de Sant. Alex, congratulations on the first win out of 13 tries. Does it feel good to get that monkey off your back?
Absolutely, yeah. I've this is my second full season I'm planning on doing, and it's just been a grind, like trying to get the pace up, and yeah, finally got here, put a race together, and I mean, no real mistakes for me was the big thing.
Now, the pit stops wound up being kind of interesting. When you made yours, I don't know if you saw, but Pepe was not expecting it. It looked like there may have been slight contact between you two.
Yeah, there definitely was. Really sorry to Pepe for that. Just it was a late call from me. I was planning on pitting the next time by, but with Pepe that close, I figured I could gain something like on this cycle through traffic. So yeah, I just didn't have time to call it out, and I think he spun from that. So really sorry to him, but I think it was the right strategy call either way. But yeah, just unfortunate how that worked out.
Yeah, that puts the endurance round behind us now, and we head off to Zandvoort for another sprint format. A second and a first. You got to feel pretty confident. You said this is only your second season.
Yeah, well, like season and a half. I started with the Road America 500 this summer, and just kind of fell in love with this car and really adapted to it well. But yeah, so I guess got to go for the championship now with such a good start to the season here.
We'll keep an eye out for you. Clearly, you're on your way to some good things, and congratulations again.
Thanks, guys.
Alex Van de Sant there, your winner today. Up next, I believe we've got second in the GTOs as Adam has caught up with Topi Kortiniemi.
Yeah, Topi, a great race today. Not enough pace to catch up to Yuko, but a nice battle between yourself and Brassfield, as well as Timothy Vaughn being in there. Talk to me about your race today.
Yeah, I was planning the fuel save a little bit. And I think I wasn't the last pitter, but one of the most stingiest with the fuel, I think. I just couldn't keep it up in Joko's draft, and then I just, I think I misshifted once, at least once, maybe twice. So I lost the draft and then got to battle with Uwe and Ayat.
Yeah, it was a decent race, like you said, but the traffic did seem to play a role early on in the race. What are your thoughts on how the series handled the traffic today?
I think today it was quite nice actually. Nothing out of the ordinary. It was, I think it was good today, better than usual. Yeah.
And next time we head out to Zandvoort, going to be a very different sort of circumstance when it comes to the GTOs racing around that track, especially with some of the higher banking corners. What are your thoughts heading into next round?
I like the track. It's fun in any car, in the 49, in the 79 Lotus. I bet it's fun in the Audi.
Well, Topi, thanks for joining us today. Second place on the trot for you, and congrats on the podium.
Thanks, Adam.
That's Topi Kortiniemi, second place for the GTOs, and Joe has caught up with Laust Olsen.
Interesting that Topi said it was quite nice with the traffic. He got punted off, we have to remember, at one point. But Laust Olsen, your story, I think, unfortunately, comes down to a spin at one point, coming onto the front stretch. If it wasn't for that, do you feel like you could have been with Pepe at the end?
I think so. Depends. It looked like the four of us up in the front to begin with was pretty even on pace. I think Alexander and Pepe perhaps a little bit faster, but yeah, depending on traffic, could have been possible, but not quite sure. So anywhere in top four today, that was that was a good race for me.
Yeah, I mean, you finished only one down from where you started, still on the podium, so not too shabby. We don't get to see this outer layout very often. Obviously, it's very simple, and there's a lot of slipstreaming going on. Did you enjoy having the long straights here?
It's okay. I don't think, in my opinion, both layouts are evenly good. So for me, it doesn't matter. But perhaps it's a bit easier with traffic on the long straight. But otherwise, both layouts are pretty good in my opinion.
So it looks like we've gone from here to Germany, now over to Zandvoort next time, but it's the new version of Zandvoort. Have you had a chance to try it out with all the banking yet?
Oh, no, not yet. I'm a little, I don't know what to say. I'm not sure I'm looking forward to it. I didn't like it in watching the Formula 1 race there, so and I think I had pretty good pace on the old layout, so I fear that that pace may be gone, but let's see.
Well, best of luck regardless, and again, congratulations on a podium today.
Thank you.
Laust Olsen with a third. Adam?
Yeah, that's going to be the end of our interviews for today. We want to give a big shout out to the Camel GT series for bringing us on for another season. A big, huge thanks to the team today, Joe, Bobbert, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, websites, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race for Camel is going to be that new layout of Zandvoort just released. That's going to be on Saturday, September 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, be sure to check out our other broadcasts that are listed here. And we hope that you enjoyed joining us for this race as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.